Good morning. Good morning, Jesus. Hey guys. It's been a little while since I've been on camera. I've been very, very busy with work lately. Today is a day that we've been preparing for the past couple months. Butchering day for our meat birds. We've never done this before. These birds behind me, they don't have anything to worry about today. These are our egg layers. But our Cornish Crosses that are waiting back in the barn, today is their last day.
We've got our turkey fryer, which is going to act as a scalder. We've got to put water in that, get that heated up and hooked up to the propane tank. We have our yard bird plucker. This is the first time we're going to be using this, so we're looking forward to seeing how well it works. And we have a 32-gallon barrel, which I'm going to put a liner in. This is going to hold ice and a little bit of water, and that is where we're going to put the cleaned carcasses to cool before we refrigerate and freeze them. And we have our stainless steel table, which I am about to scrub down with soap and water to get us ready. And then we've got our cones here that we are going to go ahead and mount on probably one of the trees back here. And this is where the birds are going to be dispatched. So I'm going to get everything cleaned up and set up, and we'll go from there. So I put 60 pounds of ice in here, and that will melt down as we work along. This is to get the cleaned carcasses down to somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 degrees within the first couple of hours. Once we fill up this container, we will bag them up, do the shrink wrap bag, and then get them in the fridge for a day or two, and then they will go to the freezer from there. So I'm filling this up with water and adding just a couple drops of dish soap.
Why are you adding dish soap to it?
That's to break the surface tension of the water and help penetrate the feathers, so that when the water heats up and we scald them in there, it can do a better job at scalding and taking the feathers off before it goes to bed. Alright, I've got our table clean and the surface is dry. I've got gloves in case we want to use them. These are shrink wrap bags, we won't use these till the end. I've got masks in case we've got stuff flying in our face, and containers for the organs that we want to save. These are BPA freezer safe containers. We've got bag for necks, bag for feet. We're going to use those for bone broth. Our paper towel, soap, trash, and the plucker is plugged in and ready to go. I've got a waste bucket under the disposal chute there. So we've just got to hook up our hoses and get this propane tank running here that I've just hooked up.
This is where the process starts right here. We picked up a couple of these dispatching cones. The bird is going to go head first into the cone, breast forward, and then with the head sticking out the bottom, we're going to cut the jugular. It's going to bleed out. It will die very quickly. This is one of the most humane ways that you can dispatch of a bird. So the next steps in the process after the birds have been dispatched is they need to be scalded. Right here, the turkey fryer. Then we go to the plucker, and then they're going to go to the stainless steel table to be eviscerated, gutted, have the legs pulled off of them, and be generally cleaned. And then after that, they're going to go into the bucket full of ice, and they're going to be held there until we shrink wrap them, which is going to put them back into the chicken fryer at a slightly higher temperature, and then they're going to go into our fridge for resting. So we're about to get started with our first ever butchering of our own meat birds. So what are some of your what are you thinking right now?
I'm pretty anxious. The part that I'm the most concerned about is dispatching them quickly and humanely, and that's my concern. I don't like when animals are in pain, so I want to make sure that we develop our skills at doing the deed quickly. That's my main concern.
And on the topic of dispatching of the birds, the only reason why we feel the right to be able to kill these birds is because we gave them as good of a life as we can do right now. We got them from day-old chicks all the way up through the end of their life. We know exactly how they lived their lives, what they were fed, you know, did they have space to run around, which they did. They had all the space that they could have handled. So we can feel confident knowing that they lived a good life, and that when we sacrifice them, or their sacrifice now won't be a waste. That's our goal, is to not waste that.
Yeah, and with food prices rising now and some shortages appearing imminent, this seems like a very important skill for us to learn. Now, we've raised chickens for about 15 years, and never once have we tried meat birds. So that should tell you about our apprehension here. But the fact is, buying chicken from a grocery store anymore to us just seems icky. It just seems like we can take a good guess how these birds lived, and we weren't super comfortable with that. So we have to be brave and learn these skills and just kind of trust the process.
Yeah, we're total amateurs here. We've never done this before. We're very likely going to mess up. We're doing 24 birds to start with. This is just a test run for us. Hopefully we'll do more in the future. We've invested in some equipment, so it's not really about the price right now. It's about the learning process, and ensuring that we have as good of a product as we can. And maybe someday, maybe it'll turn into something bigger than that, but we'll start here.
Yep, and speaking of cost, the things that we purchased were the yard bird plucker. We built a chicken tractor, which unfortunately wasn't finished in time for these birds to be raised in, but that's okay, we've got it for the next round. So we bought the supplies for that, and we bought an inexpensive turkey fryer, along with a couple of knives and small things like that. The stainless steel table we picked up from a restaurant that was closing. We actually got that for free, and we're reusing, you know, a clean 32-gallon barrel and our food grade liners that we used for the maple sugaring. So while we did spend some money, it actually wasn't a ton of money. So we're investing in our infrastructure right now, and hopefully we'll be able to reuse it for years and years to come. So we're just waiting for the water in the scalder turkey fryer to heat up. And then we're gonna go ahead and get started dispatching our first birds. So we go into this with clean hands, humble hearts, and a whole lot of anxiety, which hopefully will dissipate after the first couple, but we'll see. So we've got our first birds ready to go here. These are, as we've said, Cornish Cross broilers. They're between 8 and 9 weeks old, and we removed feed. They had breakfast yesterday morning, so they haven't had food for over 24 hours. That is so that their crop gets a chance to empty out, and we don't have to deal with all the food as we're processing them.
So this is the aftermath. Alright, so we've got one bird here in the scalding pot and it's about ready to come out. Temperature of the water is held at about 150 degrees. And you can tell that the bird is ready to go when the skin on the feet starts to just fall off on its own. Alright, now it's going to go into the plucker. You turn the water on.
Just about perfect.
And just like that, you have a fully plucked chicken. Out of the plucker and onto the table.
Just getting the last of the pin feathers. There actually aren't many at all on this bird here. So taking the feet off by putting the knife in the back joint. Not really even cutting, I'm just holding the knife there.
If you're cutting bone, you're cutting the wrong thing. You should just be cutting off the tendons on the back and the front of the joint. It comes off very easily.
Yep, and then I'm going to take the oil gland out here.
And it's right on top of the tail?
Yep. Put it in my waste bucket. Oop. Okay, so then I'm gonna go for this indent here, pull out some skin, just enough to slice an opening. Not doing a lot of cutting, just mostly tearing. So here we've got the crop here, or the craw as some call it, and you can see the windpipe there. So I'm getting underneath this crop here. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to do. Getting under it with your thumb, just kind of separating it so that it comes out when we pull it. Okay, and I'm feeling for the neck, and this windpipe here is just right on the front side of the neck, and I'm just going to pull it out. Okay, so we've got these two things here that are going to come out when we pull from the back end. There's the esophagus and the windpipe, sorry, there's two things. Okay, now we're going to flip this bird over. We're going to go for this indent right here. Again, just do like we did in the front, just cut just enough to get your fingers in there. And rip open a cavity. Okay, then I'm going to go hand in right up alongside that bone there. I'm going to reach in and scoop out each side so that I can grab from the top as much as possible. Where is my gallbladder? Gallbladder's right there. So I want to keep track of that. That way I don't. I'll show it to you when I. Okay, so I'm pulling that crop and the windpipe out. Okay.
So the only thing that's really connected now, right, is the anus?
Yes, the last of the intestines. And I'm just, right now I'm just freeing ever so gently the liver, which I'm attempting to save most of the livers. I did waste the first one, but we just have to be careful that this dark gallbladder here doesn't get perforated, because it's apparently pretty gross. So that's the liver. I'm putting it in my organ bucket here. Some people save the heart. I have been pulling out a couple hearts. Actually, right there. That's the heart. It usually comes out with the bunch there, but I'm gonna put that in there. Okay, and then I'm gonna find the vent right back there, and I'm gonna cut around that vent without perforating the last of the intestines, because that's where any manure would be. So I'm gonna try to get right up underneath it, and then down on that side. And that is a clean break. So I'm gonna dispose of these in my waste bucket, and then all we have left to do is reach in and grab the lungs, which I've been having a heck of a time with, to be honest. I don't think it's a huge deal if the lungs are left in there.
It was my understanding that they were quite small.
Yeah, and it could be I pulled them out with the first. Yeah. Yeah, they're just really hard to get a hold of there.
Is that it right there?
Yep. So.
All right, so that's the lungs.
And they're nice and red because they were just oxygenated. Okay, so then what I do, kind of lightly rinse everything off. This is really, really messy, so I mean, there's just no way around it.
That's why you got an apron, right?
Yep. That plucker came with a free apron this time, right from the Yardbird website. So I'm gonna just spray out this cavity here, clean it as much as possible. So that hanging out. Okay, so this is a pretty clean bird. That's empty. I'm just gonna okay, so make sure you have a good hold of it. And we've got our barrel of ice here, and I'm just taking a few handfuls of ice and putting it in that cavity to get it started cooling down. Pushing the one I just did towards the bottom. That way it'll cool down quicker. These are pretty cold on top, so. And then we close the lid to keep any bugs off of it. So we've done, how many have we done?
I think that was number 5.
Number 5. Feels like a lot more than that.
Yeah, we got a lot more to
So only
go.
19 to go. Better get to work.
All right, so the last step after the birds have been put on ice is you got to package them up so they can be rested and then frozen. So we have shrink wrap bags here, and the trick to these seems like is they come with a little zip tie, and you don't want to close them up all the way when you put them in the hot water, so that there's a place for the air to get out of them. And you're only going to dunk them in here for about 2 to 3 seconds, and it's 190-degree water. So it's just going to be in, couple dips, and out. You shrink, then you pull the zip tie tight, close it up, and there you go. Alright, well, it's the next day. We finished doing all 24 birds yesterday. We weren't really sure if we were going to get them all done.
I for sure thought there was no way.
Yeah. So, I don't know, what do you think about the whole process so far?
Well, to be honest, I had a lot of anxiety going into it, but it turned out to be not quite as bad as I thought. It was not as difficult as I thought either. What about you?
Well, for me, it kind of lived up to my expectations. The parts that I was nervous about turned out to be the hardest parts for me, and the parts that I wasn't too concerned about wasn't so bad.
What were your biggest apprehensions?
Gutting the birds. Digging my hands inside of the birds, feeling around for soft bits and making something of it.
You didn't like that?
That's not my cup of tea.
No. I have a science background, so while I don't enjoy doing that, it's a little bit more up my alley, I guess you could say, than it is his. On that note, I very much dread dispatching animals, and Eric has had more practice with that, so what we ended up doing was he cleaned a bird just so that he had the experience, and I dispatched a bird so that we each participated in each step of the process.
We could both say that we've done it all.
Yeah, we ended up both sharing the scalding and the plucking stations, so to speak, kind of interchangeably. But yeah, I was primary bird butcher and he was primary dispatcher, so that worked out quite nicely.
Yeah, it's not something that I take any joy in, but we're all good at something, right? And I guess that's one of those things for me.
You did a good job making sure that they were dispatched quickly and with minimal suffering. I didn't hear much of a fuss, from 30 feet away where I was most of the time. So you did a good job, I thought.
Yeah, I think the key to dispatching really any animal at all is be purposeful about it. Do it quickly, do it forcefully, and be thorough about it. And don't be timid. The first time sucked. I didn't do it very good the first time, but by the 24th time, I pretty much knew exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah. Any apprehension on your part is just going to result in suffering on the part of the animal. So I know with the one that I dispatched, I of course was very reluctant to do it, and I don't think it went that smoothly. I think, yes, if I keep doing it, I'll get better at it, but it's just not something I enjoy. I ugly cried a lot. So yep, we each stuck to our own stations, and if I had to dispatch them all, I could, but I'll leave that to my beloved husband as long as he's willing.
Alright, so what do you think we could do better next time? Assuming there is a next time. What do you think? Do you think we'll do this again?
I would say yes. I would say definitely. I felt kind of a sense of accomplishment at the end. Our fridge is packed right now. We may even want to do another batch in the fall. I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see how the rest of the year goes. For me, the thing that I think I can improve on was having the birds closer to where we're doing all of the dispatching and everything. I mean, I had to walk back and forth from our barn, which from where we were was probably, I don't know, 75 feet, you know, close to 100 feet. And how I'm gonna fix that for next time is I will have our chicken tractor fully completed and the birds will be in that, and we'll be able to move the birds directly to where we are at, as opposed to me moving back and forth from our barn.
Yeah, out of eyesight though, from the butchering station.
Yeah, that's the thing. We were able to keep the birds kind of in blissful ignorance until the very last second. The last couple of birds, I think, were kind of putting two and two together and figuring out that something was wrong because none of their friends were making it back.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't think any of them had any clue what was going on until that last 30 seconds. And that's one of the things that I was concerned about with this whole project, was making sure that the birds had as free and as pleasurable a life, and then they only had one bad day, and really of that bad day they only had like 30 seconds that was pretty terrible, and then it was all over with.
Yeah. Yep. So having the birds closer would be better. We weren't able to finish the chicken tractor just with his work schedule and other things that we've had going on. So these birds never made it in the tractor, but they were completely free range. We had them cooped up at night in a small transitional chicken coop that we have. So they slept in there, safe from predators and all that, and they got fed in there. But during the day, they free ranged around the farm. They got to go in grass and corrals and pretty much wherever they darn well pleased. So
up until they got too big, where they just didn't want to walk around, and that's something that we would improve upon next time. So the birds are really bred so that after between 7 and 8 weeks, you're supposed to slaughter them. Well, we slaughtered them between 8 and 9 weeks. And you wouldn't think that just like a difference of like 3 or 4 days makes a huge difference, but it does. In that last week, they put on a ton of weight, and it almost becomes difficult for them to walk, and their quality of life just starts to diminish. They don't move around much. They're just staying put because they're so heavy, their legs just can't handle it.
Right, and even from a practical standpoint, they were more small turkey sized, to be honest, than like kind of I guess a chicken that you'd want to fit in your Instant Pot.
Yeah, there were a couple really big chunkers in there.
Yeah,
that
these are more like roasting birds. I would say that we should definitely assess them at 7 weeks next time, see where they're at.
But that comes back down to my work schedule. I only had so many days that I could allocate to this, and this is how it worked out.
We couldn't have done it any sooner, honestly, but I think we just got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And,
all right, so what was the most valuable tool during this whole thing?
Oh my gosh. No question. The Yardbird plucker, the automatic plucker that we purchased. That was an expensive purchase for us.
At the time of this video, we spent about $500 on it.
Yeah, it was just under $500.
Yeah. So it's not cheap, but it took a process that I mean, I've never plucked a chicken in its entirety by hand, but I would imagine that 10 to 15 minutes maybe to get a bird fully
I've seen videos, and I decided up front that I was not going to hand pluck a chicken. Now, people would say, well, you have to do it just once, just so that you get the experience. No, sorry, I don't need that experience hand plucking a bunch of chickens. I'm good. I understand it's hard work. I don't need to do it to figure that out. That being said, I don't think my feeling of this being easier than I thought would be the same had we hand plucked all of those birds.
Yeah,
no way.
The Yardbird plucker turned a kind of arduous task into a literally turn a knob, put the water on, flip a switch, and about 15-20 seconds of tumbling around and she's done, totally done. In fact, if you left it in there much longer, you're going to end up doing more damage to the bird than anything else.
Yep.
So
and we had a bucket of feathers, you know, that collected underneath it, and that would fill up from time to time because you've got water coming out of the unit too. So there was some emptying of that. There were a couple instances where the bird that we had in there at the time was on the large side, and so we did have to stop the unit and readjust it, reposition the bird.
Yeah, I would say that the plucker is better suited for maybe either small Cornish crosses or just smaller breeds in general. I've seen videos of people using where they put like 2 birds at the same time. You could not have done that with the birds that we had, but that might go back to us waiting just a little too long to butcher them.
and we were only doing 1 at a time. We didn't try to do 2 at a time. Did we try to do 2 at a time?
I never tried to
No, we
do
didn't try to do 2 at a time, but that was mostly because we were learning, and we weren't the fastest at this.
Yeah, we were soldering. I had 2 exsanguination cones, killing cones, whatever you want to call them. I had 2 of them, and that's as many birds as I could keep going through the system.
Yep, he'd dispatch 1, go and get another, dispatch the other. By the time the second bird was, you know, in the process of dying, he'd take the first bird over to the scalder, and then depending on where I was at with my butchering of the previous bird, either he'd get it from the scalder to the plucking machine, or I'd do the transition. But it seems like for the most part you always had, I would be butchering one and you'd have the other one ready to go. And I think we might have started maybe a little after 10 in the morning.
Yeah, and we broke for lunch. I mean, we're not working ourselves to death here. And we were done, cleaned up, and taking a shower by 7:30.
We were all showered up and resting on the couch at 7:30.
Yeah, so it was a full day's work, no doubt about it. I personally would like to maybe put up an awning next time just to shade us a little bit in the sun.
Yeah, or move our station to a shaded
we have a big
area.
stainless steel table that we got, and that's kind of bright in the noon sun. It's very bright.
Yeah, and I was getting quite hot in that butchering apron that came free with the yard bird, which I have to say, that was another thing that I actually may order a second one. They were only $35, but it came as a free gift for ordering the plucker.
It was kind of an afterthought, but I think it saved a lot of mess on our clothes. I mean, we still got dirty, but it was less so.
Yep. Another thing I would do is, we didn't have the best of knives. I had ordered a butchering set, and we actually found the package on our porch after we were all done. So it had come at some point during the day.
Literally the minute we finished, it showed up.
Yeah,
that's how these
something
things work.
that I should have thought about, you know, in advance. But
we worked with what we had. So you don't have to buy a whole bunch of new stuff in order to make this happen. So the 2 pieces of kit I think that you should have that are a little bit spendy is the turkey fryer for the scalding process.
Well, that's not too bad. I think we only paid $60 for that.
Oh, okay,
eBay.
so 60. So between the scalder and the plucker, you're probably going to be into this for like $600 before, you know, with the birds.
Plus the birds and the feed, of course, and a place to keep them, and
the cost. This is not initially this is not a very cost-effective way to have chicken. We would have been better off just buying chicken from the store, but that's not the point of this whole experiment.
That's not the chicken that we want to be eating. But I will say too, while we did spend a bit of money on this endeavor here, we were also taking the opportunity to purchase a lot of the infrastructure.
Yeah.
That chicken tractor build, the brooder, which also served as a duck brooder and a brooder for our layer birds too.
That's been really useful.
Multi-purpose, but we did build that primarily for the meat birds. We bought a couple of extra feeders, waterers, and then the couple of big things: the turkey fryer, which we used for scalding, the plucker, the stainless steel processing table.
That was free. That one, all we had to do was rip that out of a restaurant that was being demoed for a local fire department that the building had been donated, and they said, hey, we're going to be by a certain time. Take whatever you want before then. So we came in and
it was going to be destroyed. So
that was free.
We took that for free. It's not in perfect shape, but it was far beyond good enough for what we needed it for. So yes, we could have done it cheaper, but we chose to, what is it, buy once, cry once?
Yeah.
And, buy decent equipment, and that will hopefully last us for years and years and years. So I have no regrets about that. And do you?
No, I mean, I think that's about it. Now we have 24 whole Cornish Cross chickens waiting in the fridge right now. They're aging, and they'll be thrown in the freezer, and we'll probably end up giving some away, and that'll be it.
Right now we're just providing for ourselves and a couple family members, but we'll see kind of what the demand is. You have to make sure to abide by your local and state rules as far as selling poultry that you've raised and slaughtered on your own backyard.
Giving is one thing. Once you start exchanging money, then the government wants to get involved.
Yeah.
If you want more information on that, go talk to Jill Saladin.
Yeah, for sure. But I think overall, that this was good experience. We'll see how it tastes. I'm sure it tastes delicious, but we won't know for a couple of days. So, and we'll get some weights on these birds too.
We don't know how much they weigh other than very heavy.
Yep. We'll know for sure. I ordered a hanging scale, but again, it isn't here yet because I didn't think about that until later. I just realized we had no method established to weigh them. Another thing that we did not do is we did not measure feed. We also didn't pull their feed at night. And I noticed when I was butchering them that there was some evidence that maybe we should do that in the future. We did fast them the day before processing, which we figured out was pretty important. The last bird or two that we processed had gotten into some feed at some point during the day. I can't blame them. But but yeah, so it's important to fast the birds. So, but yeah, measuring feed would be a good thing too.
Well, I think that's about it for this. We've already droned on long enough, so we'll do an update after we've had a chance to eat some of them, see how that all worked out, see if there's a difference. I hope so. Anyway, thanks for watching our video. I hope it was somewhat informative. Hopefully we'll have more things like this in the future. Hopefully I'll be able to make more of an appearance in more videos in the future. That's another plan that I'm working on as well. So,
yep, take care until next time.